Oh my, it is a Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Weather Show. Good evening to you, live from downtown Raleigh as we talk all things weather on a Wednesday evening. And whether you're a weather aficionado or you're just dipping your toes into weather education, we've got you covered tonight. We have got so much to talk about, both in our region and around the country. Let's check your three big things tonight. Is it getting cold? I've been asked this a lot over the past couple of days. Today was the first day in some spots in the 40s since last April. So we've got even cooler temps headed in. We could be in the 70s or 30s next week for morning lows, 70s for highs. We're going to talk all things Milton. We're going to do a complete breakdown of Milton. We've got a live report coming up from our friends at AccuWeather down along the Florida coastline. We'll check in with them in just a bit. And then the weather pick this week. It's a cool one. Weather pick time. It's not really a weather pick, but it's a great outdoor pick, and I think it's one that will have a lot of folks talking. So that's coming up in just a bit. But if you're new to the show, we always start with the forecast. So let's get things started right now with what's going on around here tonight. And it is quiet. Live look at our first alert Doppler net. We are scanning the skies and we are dry across this part of the Carolinas. So let's head down into Florida. We've actually been able to reconfigure our weather computer to look at National Weather Service. We can do this anywhere in the country. Anywhere there's a National Weather Service radar, we can tap into it if we need to. That's what we've done. We're looking at Tampa Bay's radar. This is a live look at radar as of 7:02. You can see along the Florida coastline from Tampa Bay down to about Sarasota, they're actually getting some dry slots in there. They've had lots of tornado warnings out to the east and to the south. As a matter of fact, the state of Florida today had over 100 tornado warnings. It's the most tornado warnings ever issued in a day in the state of Florida. And it was just crazy with all those tornadoes that were out there, several confirmed tornadoes, possibly up to 24 or more tornadoes firing. And we'll talk much more about Milton. I do want to show this to you real quick. This is our CVD radar, color vision deficiency radar. It's for people who are colorblind. We always have this at abc11.com for our local area. And up to 10% of our audience could have trouble seeing reds and greens. So we actually built a radar that works for people who have that trouble. This is just blues and yellows to show you the more intense areas and the lighter areas of showers, but this is working up in Tampa. This is real time. Now, we don't have this on our website for everywhere. We just have it for our viewing area, but I like to point it out. You can always find that for our area at abc11.com/weather. Let's talk about our weather tonight. Oh, it's a beautiful night. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. I wish this camera wasn't, it's kind of on the edge of the building. If we turn it around, we just see the rooftop. So we're looking east on our Pendo sky cam. But you can see those orange skies being reflected off the buildings. Just a beautiful evening across the Carolinas, 64 right now. We do have cloud streaming across us. This is all from Milton. If we look at the latest satellite radar composite, we've got clouds, that's why it's gray, but we're not seeing any rainfall around here. If we zoom it out and look down to the south, you can see the leading edge of Milton throwing some rain up into South Georgia tonight. Those clouds streaming across us, and they're going to be with us through the overnight. That will actually hold our temperatures up just a bit. I don't think we'll see any patchy fog. We're nice and dry, but temperatures will be in the 50s tonight. 55 Smithfield, 53 Durham, 58 in Lumberton. If you're headed out tomorrow morning, temperatures will be in the mid-50s all the way until 10 o'clock, 59. Lunchtime, 64 degrees. We'll start the day with clouds tomorrow. We will see those clouds moving out as the day moves along. And by the afternoon, sunshine is here, but that wind is going to be out of the north. We'll see winds around 10 miles an hour, gusts going to 20 miles an hour. That's going to be forcing drier, cooler air into us. And it will hold us well into the 60s all day long. Not a ton of 70s out there as we head through the day tomorrow. Look at your temperatures right through the middle part of the viewing area. Upper 60s, 68 from Siler City to Holly Springs to Cary to Garner. Only Wendell's different. You check in tomorrow with a high of 67. Now, you could see some 70s down in the Sandhills from Fayetteville to Rayford and Lumberton. 68 in Sanford, 68 in Lillington, Clinton, and Goldsboro. We go north. You'll be in the mid-60s tomorrow. Just 65 in South Hill, Virginia, and Roxboro. 64 out your door in Henderson and Roanoke Rapids. 66 in Lewisburg, and 67 in Wilson. Your first alert 7-day forecast powered by AccuWeather. 60s tomorrow, 71. A great finish to the work week. We got Friday Night Football. We've also got the kickoff of the Carolina Hurricanes regular season. First at-home game. If you are headed to tailgate down at the Lenovo Center, no longer PNC Arena, you've got a great night for it. Saturday, sunshine. We're back near 80. Sunday looks good too. Great weekend to work on the outdoor projects you might have. If you've got a honey-do list, you can tackle that this weekend. Monday, 76 and mostly sunny. Tuesday, partly cloudy. We're back into the 60s, and next Wednesday into Thursday, we could actually see some overnight lows in the 40s. All right, we are going to head to break, and when we come back, we've got a live look out of Florida tonight. We'll talk with our friends from AccuWeather, so stay with us. All things Milton coming up next.
Perfect. That sounds good. Thank you. And if you want, you can count us down if there's a set time or anything. Cool. Okay. Just so I know in my mind, how long did you slot our segment for? Yeah, no worries. Yes, I can. Yep. Oh, perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, don't be afraid to cut me off.
Welcome back. The back-to-back hurricanes that have hit Florida have affected millions of people's lives. Tampa being one of the biggest metro areas still in Milton's path, many having just survived Hurricane Helene. And they aren't taking any chances with Milton. ABC's Lionel Moyes reports.
There's an evacuation order.
People across Florida on edge. Some areas like here, north of Sarasota, are still struggling to recover from Hurricane Helene.
I feel like I'm in a bad dream and somebody's going to wake me up and say, this isn't happening.
Todd Fleck says he and his wife are lucky to be alive after water rushed in their home during Helene.
The water on the street was, when we left, was at the level of the hood of the truck, which is about 4 to 5 feet.
Taking no chances this time. Erica Palazzo cut her Florida trip short, catching a flight back to New York.
We actually caught the last 2 seats on the flight.
As evacuees worry about what's left behind.
I have family, I know where to go. People have no family, don't know where to go.
Yeah, it is.
They have to get out of St. Pete Beach and travel.
Worrying about my family and my friends back home is the worst part.
Kelly Irons and her husband packing up their RV to find shelter at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Audrey Siegler and her daughter also drove to Georgia, sleeping in their car until a hotel room opened.
It's a hard decision to make, whether, should we stay or should we go, And I think we made the right decision.
Helene hit less than 2 weeks ago and is blamed for more than 230 deaths. We've learned 11 members of the same family are among the storm victims in North Carolina.
My mother and father, my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, lost cousins, second cousins.
Their homes were washed away in a series of mudslides.
And I don't know that it'll ever be the same.
Amid the heartbreak, communities coming together. This couple says their dog is the reason they're alive.
We were all in the bed, and the tree came directly in the middle between us. It was 4 of us in the bed. The tree hitting her, I think, prevented the tree from rolling onto one of us.
A neighbor whose business was without power for 5 days, starting a fundraiser to help them.
When things go dark in your own life, sometimes to find the light, you go out and you help other people.
Lionel Moyes, ABC News, New York.
Just heartbreaking stories coming out of both Florida and North Carolina tonight. Let's turn to a live report from Florida. We've got Bill Waddell from AccuWeather standing by down in Sarasota. Bill, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, Don, it is getting dark. The winds are kicking up at times. We're seeing wind gusts 30, getting close to 50 miles an hour, and we're starting to see more of that lightning from the eye wall as Hurricane Milton comes in. What we're keeping a very close eye on, obviously, tonight is the water. Our big concern is the storm surge here. Sarasota is one of those cities in Florida just surrounded by water. Don, we're going to pack up and leave in 5 minutes. It's getting dark out. We are seeing the water levels starting to rise. It's way too dangerous to be near the water. So we want to be able to be here to show you what's going on, but we're going to be heading to our safe shelter in just about 5 minutes because, again, you came to us at the time when winds are really going to be picking up from Milton, but we can tell you a bit of good news. We're barely seeing anyone here in the Sarasota area as far as locals. Most people did heed the evacuation orders, and you can see some of the high rises, not many lights in some of those condos. A lot of people did take off.
That is good news. Now, what are some of the key things AccuWeather is actually watching for as you head into the overnight hours, Bill?
Absolutely, Don. You know it's all about the point of landfall at this point and the timing of the tides as well. We're getting a higher tide. We're going to be hitting high tide, I believe, at 3, 4 in the morning here in Sarasota. So the later this storm hits, the more potential for storm surge. But again, where, and you might be able to see that lightning off in the distance, where landfall is, that's going to be a big factor. If it makes landfall north of Tampa Bay, we're going to be seeing more of that powerful storm surge being pushed into the Tampa Bay area, which AccuWeather meteorologists are calling the worst case scenario. Our experts at the AccuWeather Global Weather Center are saying there is the potential of 15 to 20 feet of catastrophic storm surge. It all depends on where Milton makes landfall in the next few hours.
You know what, Bill? I was going to talk to you for a while, but I see the lightning. I see the water coming up. Get out of there, my friend. I'll catch up with you later. We'll talk to you tonight at 11 o'clock on ABC 11 at 11. How's that sound?
We'll see you there. We're going to be in a much sturdier place. We'll see you then, Don. Thank you.
No problem. All right, Bill. Stay safe, my friend. Yeah, it's just nasty out there as that water starts to move in. Let's get into some old school weather. My favorite. You got to listen to the bass. It's my favorite part of old school weather is the bass. Brother-in-law plays bass. So let's talk a little bit about tropical season. Where are we? We're past the peak, but we are still see these little peaks of where we see a surge of tropical weather. And that's what we're seeing as we go from October into November. We're seeing those surges. As far as tropical systems in our area tonight, there are two. We, of course, got Milton. We'll be talking more about Milton in just a moment. This system out here, here's Cape Hatteras. This system has the potential, 30% chance of becoming something tropical in the next 5 days. We expect that, though, to work out to sea. So that's not going to be a factor for us, but we will be keeping an eye on it. Right now, though, it's all things Milton. By the way, you've got Leslie out here. You've got a system coming off the coast of Africa. That one, just a 10% chance of becoming something. Not worried about it. And Leslie, every model I've seen takes it right out to sea and away from us. So we will not have to worry about Leslie as we work into old school weather. Why do we call it? Because we call it old school weather because we're going to break this down. We're going to talk fronts, we're going to talk highs, we're going to talk lows, and we're going to do a tour of the radar. So here it is, live look into Florida tonight. Here's Tampa. We're looking at National Weather Service radar. All of these green counties are under flash flood warnings already. We did have a tornado warning out earlier tonight. Here's Sarasota. Here's where Bill is, right down here, the gentleman we just talked to from AccuWeather. And you can see it's pushing in. So this water is starting to push in. As this eye moves through, it's kind of like sucking up a straw. As you suck up a straw, there's less pressure and the water comes up. There's less pressure here, so we'll see that water come up. And that's why the storm surge is just getting ready to move in, and we let him go because he's already seen the water rise, and we don't want him out there in the lightning either. But they definitely will see a big storm surge. And we can actually look at some of the wind speeds coming in tonight around it. This is so we can take a picture with radar. We can see where the raindrops are. That's what we just showed you. But we can see which way those are pointed and which way they're moving and how fast they're moving. We call it velocity. and we're seeing 94. Earlier on this edge, we were actually seeing over 100 miles an hour. So around the eye, we're seeing anywhere from 60 to 90 to 100 miles an hour for wind speeds around the eye of that storm. All of the warnings tonight, hurricane warnings extend from Fort Myers up to Sarasota, Tampa, up to Cedar Key, and it goes across the entire state. Coast to coast on Florida includes Daytona Beach down to Fort Pierce, Orlando as well. They've got hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings to the south. They've had so many tornado warnings today. Like I said, over 100 tornado warnings in that area. We're going to go north. The tropical storm warnings extend to the coast of South Carolina. It doesn't really get into the counties, but the wind on the backside of this is going to be up around tropical storm force strength. And so that's why we anticipated getting nasty along the coast. We did have several counties along our coast in tropical storm watch yesterday. You might remember a watch means we're watching the situation. It could happen. A warning means it will happen. Well, they were watching the situation yesterday. They did a better analysis of it and got more model data coming in. It looks like the tropical storm force winds will stay away from the Carolina coastline. So that is good news for our area. Here is the 7 o'clock update. We are getting hourly updates now on intensity with Milton. Winds are still at 120 miles an hour, gusts still 150 miles an hour. It is moving northeast at 15 miles an hour, expected to move in here sometime over the next couple of hours. Notice it stays a Category 1 overnight as it pushes toward Orlando. So even though hurricanes need warm water under it, we're going to talk more about that coming up in the viewer question, but when they get over land, they tend to weaken. This thing is moving so fast and it is so strong that it will maintain its hurricane intensity as it goes across the state of Florida. And that's why Orlando, Disneyland, that whole area, St. Cloud, they could all see hurricane force winds. It does eventually go out to sea. I want to address this real quick because I had a viewer ask me today, but she wasn't the first viewer. I've had several viewers message me today. And they said, you know what, Don, I saw online that this storm system gets out over warm water in the Gulf Stream and it strengthens again and then it circles back and it hits North Carolina. That is wrong. There are people putting out on social media especially false reports and just speculation because they want you to click. They want you to listen to it. The more people who listen to it, especially if it's on like TikTok or Instagram and you're watching that video, if you're engaging with that video, even if you don't like it, if you're just watching it, they get paid money. So they put out all kinds of weird and just controversial things, and none of it is true. And there was one person who put out today that this thing was going to go out to sea. It's going to hit the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is a very warm current of water that flows from south to north along the east coast of the United States. It's why tropical fishing is so good if you go out several miles off the coast of the Carolinas. The person put out that the storm was going to move out there, that it was going to strengthen, and it was going to come back. That is absolutely false. If you hear anybody saying it, don't share it, don't like it. Just get off the video. Don't even engage with it because they're lying. They're just trying to make money off of your eyeballs. So not going to happen. This thing's, it could strengthen again a little bit as it gets out over that warm water. That part is correct, but every model takes it out to sea and away from us. We will not deal with Milton here in the Carolinas. I know that was a little bit of a rant, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew about it. There's a lot of nasty people out there putting out false reports. And here's just a backup of that. So this is the spaghetti model plot. We call it the spaghetti model plot because each line is a different model, and when you pile them all together, they look like a pile of spaghetti. Well, here we are, all of them tightly packed across central Florida. Now notice, as they go out to sea, there's a lot of questions kind of where they wiggle around. Not one of those lines comes back to North Carolina. There isn't one model out there showing it coming back at us, so we do not have to worry about this. It's going to go out to sea, it's going to work away, and it is good news for us here in the Carolinas. We did have some tornado warnings earlier. Like I said, over 100 tornado warnings. In old school weather, we like to show you around the country and show you where any warnings are right now. Several flash flood warnings being detected. This one, Indian River and St. Lucie, near Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce. More of them up as you go into northern parts up toward Daytona Beach. Some flash flood warnings up there. We actually see rain falling in upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania. Some snow at the highest elevations in upstate New York. They're starting to see see some snow up there and into the northern parts of New Hampshire, a little bit of snow being detected. We head out to the mountains in the Four Corners region, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, they're all just seeing rain, even at their highest elevations, not seeing any severe weather. And then out in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, some of the highest elevations west of there, a little bit of snow flying up in the mountains of Vancouver and up toward Calgary. As you get up into Canada, they are seeing snow tonight. So in old school weather, we show you the surface map and break down all the highs and lows just like they used to do on certain channels in the day. And we've got a stationary front. This is what's keeping Milton away from us. Remember, a stationary front is where warm air, cold air meet. Neither one of them is winning the battle, so they're stuck. It's stationary. It doesn't go anywhere. And that's what we're seeing off to our south. We go north. There's an area of low pressure with these upper level disturbances swinging around it. That's why New England is seeing rain tonight. Big area of low pressure trying to push out of the Rocky Mountains of Canada down into the upper plains in the U.S. It will bring colder air, and the Four Corners region has high pressure around it and just a few disturbances in the mountains. That's a look at old school weather. We've got so much more to talk about. We hope you stay with us as we head to break. How about this? This is a current look at conditions in Key West, Florida tonight. And they are still seeing winds and rain bands working through. They've had some dry slots in Key West, but looks pretty windy on the camera right there, and lots of rain in the southern part of Florida. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We've got that viewer mail music playing. And remember, if you want to send a viewer mail, or you want to send email to me or send a picture to me, just go to abc11.com/share. We'll show that to you coming up in just a bit. But let's show you our viewer mail tonight. This one doesn't come from far away. I'm going to admit this one wasn't sent in. This was said to me today while I was having lunch with my wife, Kim in Holly Springs. She said, what does it take to actually form a hurricane? You know, I thought that's a great subject. So let's talk a little bit about the ingredients we need to start a hurricane, since everybody's talking about hurricanes this time of year. Now, the first thing you need is water temperature above 80 degrees. You have to have very warm water underneath it. There's an old saying that says a butterfly flaps its wings in Western Africa, and eventually that turns into a hurricane in North America. It's not quite that simple, but you do have to have a little bit of a disturbance in the atmosphere moving across very warm water. That's our first ingredient, above 80 degrees. The warmer the better to get that hurricane roaring. Next thing you need is that area of low pressure, and you'll see converging winds, and as those winds run into each other, they don't have anywhere to go, so they're forced up. And as they go up, we see condensation, we'll see the clouds build, and you need abundant moisture inside those winds. If we had dry air converging at the surface, that's not going to form anything. It's got to be warm, moist air. It's got to have that warm water underneath. And then finally, you need upper level winds blowing in roughly the same direction. You can't have the winds blowing in different directions around a hurricane because it'll cut the top off it. It'll shear it, is what it's called. The wind shears the top of the storm. If you've got all of those ingredients, you get nasty storms like we're seeing with Milton. A little more about this area of low pressure. Low pressure is where air there's not a lot of air packed into one place. So because there's not a lot of air, that air comes rushing in and it goes up, and that's what forms the clouds with areas of low pressure. High pressure is different. High pressure is where you get a lot of air packed into one place, and there's not room for that air to move around, and the air actually sinks in high pressure. And because that air is sinking, it's drying, we actually get very blue skies. And so right now, well, tomorrow into Friday in North Carolina, we will have high pressure here. We will have blue skies. There's air, a lot of air packed into one place. I like to do this when I do school visits. I'll put a little kid next to me. They're the low pressure, I'm the high pressure. Low pressure, there's not a lot of that little kid packed into one place compared to me. There's a lot of me packed into one place. So that's the difference between high and low pressure. But you got to have that low pressure. You got to have that warm air surging in over warm water, and all that air has got to be moving in the same direction. And that is what gets a hurricane going. And if I did that wrong, I'm sure Kim in Holly Springs will let me know that I didn't answer the question correctly, but she's usually pretty good about it. When we come back, we're going to show you the viewer pick. We've got your coffee forecast, which we always end with. Stay with us. As we head to break, we want to show you a live look at current conditions in Bradenton, Florida, the winter home of your Pittsburgh Pirates. Well, they're not yours, but that's where the Pittsburgh Pirates have their spring training facility in Bradenton, Florida, and it is bouncing around, windy and wet on the west coast of Florida tonight. Stay with us. Welcome back. Got to show you this big weather pick. Not really a weather pick, but a cool pick came in. This is an albino deer. I put somewhere, North Carolina. It comes to us from Diane Obeid. I don't say where, because last time I said where, unfortunately, the hunters got all excited, and I don't want them doing that to this beautiful albino deer walking across Diane's yard. Thank you so much for sending that in, Diane. If you have a picture, we'd love to see it. abc11.com/share. Well, when we get to the end of the show, we always like to show you that coffee forecast, because who doesn't like an extra cup of coffee in the morning? In the next couple of days, we will see temperatures. Well, tomorrow's the warmest. We're actually in the mid-50s to start your day. By 9 o'clock, 57. By 10 o'clock, almost 60 degrees. But we'll be in the 40s on Friday morning, so be ready for a cooler start there. That is going to do it for us tonight. Remember, ABC 11 at 11 tonight, we will track the latest on Milton. It should be making landfall by then. We'll check in with our friends from AccuWeather Live on the ABC 11 newscast. And of course, if you have questions, abc11.com/share. I'd love to hear from you. That's going to do it for this week for the Weather Show. Thanks for spending part of your week with us. Stay safe out there. See you next Wednesday.